In 1912 northern France, Horty, a foundry worker, finishes first at his workplace's racing event, which makes him the champion for the third time in a row. Because of this, Simeon, the company's president, awards him the privilege to attend the Titanic's departure. Zoe, Horty's wife, displays a faint tinge of disappointment on her face, for she expected that they'd win a grander prize, something that'll help them relocate into a better neighborhood. After the event, Horty asks Simeon if Zoe will accompany him, but the president takes offense to his question. He interprets it as a request, so he informs Horty that he only sponsored his trip because it cost him a fortune. Before leaving, Simeon hands him his ticket and wishes him a safe travel. On their way home, Simeon's secretary, Meunier, reminds him that they actually bought 2 tickets for England, but Simeon explains that he only provided one because he wants to take advantage of Zoe without Horty's interference. The next day, in a luxurious hotel in Southampton, Pascal is curious about Horty's nationality, so he reveals that he's French. This makes Pascal wonder about the reason for his stay in England, and Horty shares that he's there to watch the Titanic's departure. Later in Horty's room, he hears a knock on the door, compelling him to check on his visitor. Outside, a woman shyly informs Horty that she is a chambermaid who's set to depart on the Titanic tomorrow. However, she feels helpless because she doesn't know where to spend the night given that all the hotels are full. Thankfully, she's learned from a civilian that Horty's just passing through, so she requests that he vacate the room for her. The man refuses to give up the room, explaining that he doesn't know where he'll stay if he complies with her wish. Defeated, she excuses herself and proceeds to leave, but Horty, out of pity, invites her to stay with him, which delights the woman. That night, she occupies the bed, whereas Horty's on the chair when the woman suddenly calls for his name. She invites him to sleep beside her, assuring him that he'll be comfortable because she doesn't take up much space on the bed. When she uncovers herself with a blanket, Horty immediately takes the offer by lying beside her. The woman expresses that she finds Horty's physique enticing, but he simply brushes it off by saying that it's the result of his hard work in the foundry. Curious about his identity, she asks for his name, and he supplies the information she needs. This time, she introduces herself, and her name happens to be Marie. Despite being a married man, Horty begins to harbor a desire for Marie that he even dreams of having an intimate affair with her. The following morning, Horty becomes anxious to find that Marie has already left the room. Remembering that it's the day of the Titanic's departure, Horty hastily gets dressed so he'll be able to catch up to Marie. At the dock, Horty's relieved to locate her, who's currently getting her photograph taken. Though he wants to approach Marie, Horty knows he can't as she's busy fulfilling her duties as a chambermaid. Thus, he simply leaves the area and lets the crowd bid the Titanic farewell. Moments later, Horty encounters the photographer, and he requests that he acquire Marie's picture as a souvenir. A week later, Zoe, alongside their friends, crowds Horty to welcome him from his travels. But Meunier suddenly intervenes in their conversation. He reports that Simeon wants to speak with Horty, so the crowd gives way to the president. Simeon expresses that since he's seen greater things on his travel to England, he believes it's only necessary to promote him to become the tower's maintenance worker. As Horty listens to Simeon's words, Gaspard, his colleague, reveals to him that Zoe is the reason for his promotion, and that she's been friendly with their president while he's away. This information makes Horty feel conflicted. That's why, when they're at home, he refuses to acknowledge the seduction Zoe's making for him. The woman confronts him for ignoring her and remaining silent the whole time they're together. To try her luck, Zoe, with her undergarment showing, approaches him in hopes that he'll give in. Still mad at the possibility that Zoe's been unfaithful, Horty shoves her away and begins to leave for the bar. Zoe feels neglected as he decides to spend his day at the bar instead of being with her, given that it's been a week since they've last seen each other. She voices that she barely slept and ate, for she has been patiently waiting for his return. However, Horty remains resentful of the rumors that circulate about her, so he questions why she's dressed seductively. She reveals that she prepared it for him, but Horty's skeptical of her words, leading him to walk out angrily. At the bar, Horty's companions pass around Marie's photo, believing that she's his new flame. Out of curiosity, they ask him if he already became intimate with her, but he denies it. Instead, he informs them that he just shared a bed with her, but his friends only make fun of him. Al offers to give him free drinks as long as he tells them about his experience with Marie. Once he accepts his offer, Horty recounts the first time he encountered Marie in his hotel room. At first, Horty shares a factual account of what transpired on the night he accommodated Marie, mainly when they shared the bed due to the woman's invitation. But because his friends keep on asking if they've become intimate, Horty weaves a different story to indulge their imagination. Back at the hotel, Marie felt an intense heat, so she abruptly left the bed to freshen in the bathroom. She noticed that Horty had followed her, so she invited him inside the bathroom and proceeded to lather water on his body. Unable to resist the temptation, Marie initiated kissing him and even professed her love for him. In the present, Al believes his story is extraordinary, but Horty knows it's far from it, leading him to stand up abruptly. He wishes to return home, but his friends feel disappointed as they want to know more about his conquest. An impatient Gaspard voices that he should stay and jokes that Zoe might be fooling around with Simeon. Insulted, Horty attacks Gaspard, but Al immediately intervenes before things take a terrible turn. By the evening, Horty returns home, and he confronts Zoe if she's having an affair with Simeon. His question renders her silent, which rouses Horty's suspicion that she indeed committed adultery. He questions if she slept with his boss so he'll get promoted, but Zoe persistently denies his allegations. Suddenly, the couple hears Horty's friends outside, who begs him to continue his story about the chambermaid he met in England. This time, Zoe confronts him about the woman they're associating him with, but Horty feigns innocence, reasoning that his friends are making things up since they're drunk. Despite his denial, Zoe sees through his deceit as she remembers that he refused to make love to her when he returned from his travels. Out of anger, Zoe confesses that she indeed slept with Simeon, and even deems him a better lover than Horty. The man can't stomach her admission, so he walks out of their house to visit the bar. Not long after, Horty lies to his friends that Marie took her to the Titanic to become intimate with him and give him a tour of the infamous ship. Based on Horty's crafted account, he met Marie again on the streets, and the woman encouraged him to pursue their affair for she believed he'd only live once. Then, she invited him inside the Titanic and gave him a brief tour of the ship's interior. Marie was the only chambermaid who had yet to help with the party's preparation, so she led him underneath the table to hide. Motivated by desire, Horty proceeded to kiss her, but their intimacy was interrupted when one of Marie's colleagues approached the table. Therefore, she urged him to remain silent as they became intimate. Whenever Marie was actively working, she snuck refreshments and food underneath the table so that Horty would regain his strength to make love. Back in the present, Horty boasts to his friends that he has brought excitement to Marie's life by fulfilling her desires. He lies that the chambermaid has promised to search for him when she returns from America. One day at the foundry, Horty's friends and colleagues discover that the Titanic has sunk, which urges them to search for Marie's name in the newspaper to see if she's survived the tragedy. At the tower, Horty feels mournful about the Titanic sinking, for he believes it's claimed Marie's life. A few days later, Zoe tears up at Horty's cold behavior toward her, especially since he refuses to return home. Mathilde comforts Zoe by saying that their problem will soon pass. She also advises her to visit Horty in the tower, but Zoe refuses because it scares her to see him lonely. Like them, Al worries about Horty's refusal to leave the tower, so she scolds him and encourages him to return home. In hopes of reigniting his love for his wife, Al explains that Zoe's alleged affair with Simeon was just a rumor and that the woman is deeply in love with him. Blanche, one of Zoe's colleagues, informs her that Horty has gained a reputation in their bar as he tells his escapades with a chambermaid. Mathilde accuses Blanche of lying and leads Zoe away from the woman, saying that hearing such a thing will further hurt her. As they begin to leave, Simeon appears, compelling Zoe to report Horty's behavior to him. Following this, she pleads with him to clarify that they don't have an affair, for such baseless rumors have only caused Horty's cold treatment toward her. Simeon promises to explain to Horty that nothing happened between them, much to Zoe's relief. Unbeknownst to them, Horty's observing them from above, and due to jealousy, he throws a wrench into Simeon's car, damaging it. The president feels threatened by his actions, which leads him to fire Horty as he thinks he's trying to end his life. Days later, now that Horty's unemployed, he spends his time at the bar wherein he earns free drinks by detailing his alleged affair with Marie. This time, his story takes an ambitious turn, for he shares with the audience that he found Marie's unconscious body on the shore following the Titanic tragedy. Then, he emphasizes that he brought the chambermaid to a hotel room he'd booked, by which he tried to resuscitate her using his kisses. Upon hearing such a tale, Zoe, who's part of the crowd, approaches Horty and confronts him about the truthfulness of his claims. Horty's nervous that his secret will be revealed, but he confirms that he indeed met up with Marie. His unfaithfulness hurts Zoe, so she slaps him and proceeds to walk out. Outside of the bar, Horty tries to speak with Zoe, but his touch repulses her for she can't forgive his infidelity. Horty fights back by reminding Zoe of her alleged affair with Simeon, but the woman denies it. Overwhelmed, she blames his trip to see the Titanic for causing the rift in their marriage. The sight of Zoe's vulnerability tugs Horty's heart, so he encourages her to forget his story with Marie. She finds it absurd, knowing that Horty spread it all on his own. Her husband finally admits that it's all fabricated, and he only does it because his friends like it. Moreover, he believes Marie isn't a threat to their relationship because she might have passed away when the Titanic sank. Later in the couple's bed, Zoe orders him never to return to the bar and share his fabricated tales. She wants him to establish that she is the only woman in his life, and Horty senses the possessiveness in his wife's words. To make it up to her, Horty initiates making love to Zoe. It's been days since the last time Horty visited the bar, so a concerned Al visits the couple's residence. He's in disbelief that Horty won't share his stories anymore, given that he has more time now that he's unemployed. Just then, Gaspard appears and announces that Lou, the bar owner, is desperate because the bar is full. With this in mind, Al informs them that Horty's absence at the establishment will compel Lou to keep the tips. His words capture Zoe's attention, so she demands an explanation from him. Al explains that Lou provides tips to Horty, and he swears that it's a huge sum of money. Knowing they need the funds, Zoe announces to Al that she'll allow her husband to revisit the bar. However, she has one condition. They must let Horty reveal that his stories are only fictional. That day, Jeppe, a traveling entertainer, stops by the bar to hear Horty's engaging narration of how he made love with Marie by drenching her with a bottle of champagne. Impressed with him, Jeppe invites him to join his moving theater as he can see a promising future with Horty's storytelling skills. Initially, Horty refuses because his stories are merely fake, but Jeppe doesn't mind it. Moreover, he mentions that living in a caravan can be beneficial for them. Since Zoe has been hoping for a new place to live, she approaches the pair, hoping to negotiate with Jeppe. The entertainer is surprised by her sudden appearance, but he uses this opportunity to introduce himself. He shares his enthusiasm for meeting the wife of such a great actor like Horty. Confused, Zoe wonders why he addressed her husband as an actor. So Jeppe explains that Horty's imagination is an attribute fitting for such an occupation. He promises to turn him into a great actor, but Zoe refuses because she doesn't want him talking about another woman. To convince her, Jeppe informs her that they can earn 100 francs a week. Without hesitation, the couple joins Jeppe's group, and Zoe's ecstatic as she feels like they're on their way to changing their lives. One night, the couple's lounging in their tent when Zoe encourages Horty to make love to her as he did in his stories. On the day of Horty's performance, he has a weak start for he can't hide his nervousness. Jeppe, who's backstage, expresses his disappointment to his assistant Giovanni because Horty's delivery feels soulless. Now, Horty imagines that Marie's standing in front of him, which allows him to deliver his story with more detail and emotions. However, after the show, Zoe's so jealous of Marie that she punches her portrait, which confuses Horty. He reminds her that she encouraged him to share his story, so Zoe voices that she still thinks he had an intimate relationship with Marie. For Horty to continue profiting from his tales, Zoe sets a condition that she must play Marie's role. During one of his performances, Horty's stage has improved. Giovanni helps him make his delivery more compelling with his sound effects, whereas Zoe acts the part where Marie allegedly disappeared on the night Titanic sank. Once he's finished, Horty receives a standing ovation from the audience, which makes Jeppe feel elated. He goes backstage and informs Zoe of their performance's success, but the woman isn't enthusiastic about it. Abruptly, she joins Horty on stage, and due to her bitterness toward Marie, she covers the woman's portrait with herself. From performing on the streets, Horty's fascinating tales of Marie have provided him with an opportunity to perform in a theater. While Horty recounts how he got separated from Marie, he stops in the middle of his performance as he's in disbelief that the muse of his stories is a part of the audience. Marie proceeds to leave the theater, so Horty has no choice but to follow her. Jeppe is disappointed in his decision, so he orders Giovanni to perform some tricks to entertain the audience. Outside, Horty encounters Pascal, who turns out to be Marie's husband, and he reveals to him that his wife was rescued from the Titanic incident. Horty is confused because he never found her name in the newspaper, so Pascal informs him that Marie isn't her real name. It turns out that she's a thief, and using a different name is part of her scheme. Meanwhile, Zoe tries to follow Horty, but upon reaching the parking lot, she's shocked to see Marie in the flesh. In Marie's opinion, Horty has a great imagination, and she's bitter that they're living well out of fabricated stories. Therefore, Marie is demanding that Zoe hand her their share of the money. Back to Horty, he learns from Pascal that Marie was supposed to steal his belongings when they shared the hotel room. However, because he doesn't have much, Marie simply leaves him alone. Moments later, Horty faces Marie, but neither of them initiates a conversation for they're overwhelmed by each other's presence. Following this, Zoe returns to the parking lot with money in her hands, but she's surprised to find Pascal in the car instead of Marie. The man asks what she needs from his wife, and Zoe's stunned that Marie's married. Nevertheless, Zoe hands him their share of the money and orders him never to come back. Later on, Horty returns to the stage and he admits to the audience that he's just an imposter. Though it's supposed to be a disappointing admission of deceit, Horty turns it into another compelling storytelling, wherein he evokes the audience's emotions by colorfully recounting how he confronted Marie earlier. Metaphorically, Horty announces that he has killed Marie, signaling that he's severed his fascination with her. To further make his acting convincing, he proceeds to burn Marie's portrait on stage and ends his act with a tear. Again, Horty receives a round of applause from the audience, urging Jeppe and Giovanni to join him upstage. Confused, Jeppe wonders if he really liked Marie, but Horty clarifies that he didn't and only used an onion to make himself cry. The following morning, Pascal's confused as to why Marie is upset, given that they've acquired the money. Marie remains silent as she keeps on musing at the idea that a stranger like Horty could love her that much. While Marie feels miserable at Pascal's company, Horty and Zoe reignite their passion with each other.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.